These iPads were meant for my twins, not for your kids, Vanessa declared, snatching the wrapped presents from my children's hands, leaving them frozen in disbelief. Tyler and Taylor need them for their advanced classes. Your kids would only use them for games. I'm Olivia Preston, and the image of my 10-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, staring at their aunt as she ripped away their birthday presents in front of the entire dinner party is something I'll never forget. Vanessa, those were gifts for Emma and Ethan, I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the fury building inside me. Their grandparents bought those for their birthday. I can do whatever I want in my house, she interrupted, her finger gesturing to the door. And right now, I want you and your little budget family to leave. You're ruining the vibe of our dinner party. Mark, my husband and Vanessa's younger brother, finally spoke. Come on, V, it's the kid's birthday. You can't be serious. Actually, I can be, she snapped. Tyler and Taylor have their piano recital next month. They need iPads for sheet music. It's educational, unlike whatever your kids would do with them. I glanced at my brother-in-law, David, silently begging him to step in, but he just stared down at his plate, avoiding my gaze. The silence was shattered by Emma's sobs. She couldn't hold back her tears anymore. Ethan wrapped his arm around her, trying to be strong, even though his eyes were also filled with tears. Let's go, I whispered, taking their hands. We don't need to stay where we're not welcome. The drive home was heartbreaking. In the back seat, I could hear my children trying to stifle their sadness. They had been so excited for this birthday dinner with their cousins, and now, they were leaving early without their presents, their special day ruined. I can't believe she did that, Mark muttered, gripping the steering wheel tightly. My own sister, what happened to her? I didn't respond. My mind was still reeling from the past 5 years, as Vanessa's sense of entitlement grew, especially after David's promotion at the investment firm pushed them into a new financial bracket. We'll get you new iPads, Mark promised, glancing at them in the rearview mirror, better ones. I knew we couldn't afford it. Mark's teaching salary and my part-time nursing job barely kept up with the mortgage. The twins' grandparents had spent months saving for those gifts, but I nodded anyway, unwilling to add more stress to their already broken hearts. That night, as I lay in bed replaying the humiliation, something inside me hardened. I would no longer let Vanessa treat my children as second-rate family members. The next morning, I called my in-laws to explain what had happened. As expected, they downplayed it. I'm sure Vanessa didn't mean any harm, my mother-in-law said. Those devices are expensive, and Tyler and Taylor are in all those advanced programs. So, because my kids aren't in private school, they don't deserve nice things? I asked, struggling to keep my voice calm. Of course not, dear, but maybe simpler gifts would be better for them. Know your audience, as they say. I hung up, feeling even more defeated. It seemed the whole family was determined to keep Vanessa at the top of the hierarchy. Over the following weeks, I did some research into Vanessa and David's finances. I checked public records, including their mortgage, tax filings, and David's business documents. Nothing invasive, just enough to paint a picture. They're living like they make twice what David actually earns, I told Mark. The house, the cars, the private schools, the vacations. I think they're stretched too thin. And if they are? Mark asked. Then we need to be prepared, I said. I'm not looking for revenge. I'm looking for protection for our family. 2 months after the birthday disaster, I received the first hint that my suspicions were correct when Mark's mother called. Has Vanessa asked you for money recently? She asked, speaking quietly. No, Mark said, glancing at me. Why? She's asked us for a big loan, something about cash flow issues with David's job. After reassuring his mother that we hadn't been asked for money, Mark turned to me, raising his eyebrows. It's starting, I said quietly. 2 weeks later, Vanessa contacted me directly for the first time since the birthday dinner disaster. Olivia, I need to talk to Mark, she said when I picked up, her voice surprisingly calm. He's teaching right now, can I help? There was a brief pause. We're having some financial trouble. David's firm is restructuring, and his position is temporarily affected. I was hoping Mark might be able to lend us some money. I kept my voice neutral. How much? $50,000, she said casually, as though it was a small amount. Just until David gets things back on track. We have the kids' tuition due next week. I nearly choked. $50,000 was more than Mark made in an entire year. That's a significant amount, I said. I'll need to talk it over with Mark. Please do, she said curtly. And Olivia, This stays between family. We don't want anyone else knowing about our situation. After hanging up, I immediately called Mark. When he heard the amount Vanessa was asking for, he was speechless. We don't have that kind of money, he said finally, even if we wanted to help, which after what she did to the kids, I'm not sure we do. I know, but this confirms what I suspected, they're in serious financial trouble. That night, we learned just how serious it was. Mark's father called, panicked. David's been fired, he said, not restructuring, fired. There's talk of him being investigated for risky investments. Over the next few days, the situation worsened. Vanessa and David's financial world came crashing down. David wasn't just fired, he was under investigation for financial misconduct. Their mortgage was underwater, their credit cards were maxed out, and the school was threatening to expel the twins for unpaid tuition. Despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy, not for Vanessa, but for her children. Tyler and Taylor had done nothing wrong, just like Emma and Ethan had been innocent when Vanessa took their birthday gifts. A week later, Vanessa showed up at our door without warning. Her designer clothes were gone, and her makeup was a mess. Her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, and her eyes were red from crying. "Is Mark home?" she asked, avoiding my gaze. "He'll be back soon. Would you like to come in?" She nodded, and I led her to the kitchen, where she hesitated to sit down in one of our modest chairs. Our home, once something she had mocked as quaint, now seemed to intimidate her. "Would you like some coffee?" I asked. "Please." As I made the coffee, she finally spoke. "Everything's gone, Olivia. The house is being foreclosed. David's under investigation. We're selling everything to pay for a lawyer." Her voice broke. "The kids are heartbroken about leaving their school." I set the coffee down in front of her. "I'm sorry about the children. They don't deserve this." She looked at me, her face tight. "I know what you're thinking, this is karma, that I deserve this." "What I think doesn't matter," I said. "What do you need, Vanessa?" She took a deep breath. "We need a place to stay, just for a little while. The house, we have to be out by next week. My parents' place is too small, and David's family is overseas." The request hung in the air, heavy with unspoken words. The woman who had humiliated my children, stolen their gifts, and kicked us out of her home was now asking to move in with us. Before I could react, Mark walked in and froze when he saw his sister at the table. "Vanessa, what's going on?" he asked. She explained her situation and request, and Mark listened silently before looking at me. We'd discussed this possibility during our contingency planning, but now that it was happening, it felt different. "We need to talk privately," Mark told Vanessa. "Can you give us a minute in our bedroom?" Turning to me, he asked, "What do you think?" I thought about Emma and on crying on the way home that night. I thought about the iPads now sitting in Tyler and Taylor's rooms, and all the years of Vanessa's cruelty and sense of superiority. Then I remembered what my mother had always taught me: be the person you needed when you were suffering. "They can stay," I said softly, but firmly. "But there are conditions." Mark nodded, understanding my meaning. "She won't like them," he said. "But she's not in a position to refuse." We returned to the kitchen, where Vanessa waited anxiously. "We have a proposal for you," I said, meeting her eyes directly. "But first, let me remind you of something that happened not long ago at your house." Vanessa went pale as I recounted that birthday dinner. My tone was calm and factual, but every detail seemed to land like a stone in still water. "You humiliated my children on their birthday," I said. "You took gifts their grandparents had saved for months to buy. You mocked our lifestyle and our values. And now you want to move into our home, the very budget house you've looked down on for years." She looked down at her coffee, unable to meet my gaze. "I know I was wrong," she said quietly. "Yes, you were," Mark agreed, his voice firm but not unkind. "And if we agree to help you, things have to change." I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "These are our terms. If you accept them, you and your family can stay in our guest room, and the kids can share with Emma and Ethan until you get back on your feet." Vanessa hesitated before opening the folder, her eyes widening when she saw the first page. "You want the iPads back?" she asked, looking up. "They were never yours to take," Mark said. "They were gifts for our children. We want them returned along with an apology to Emma and Ethan." She nodded slowly. "What else?" "You'll need to contribute to household expenses," I continued. Not much, since we know your situation, but something to cover the added costs of utilities and food. You'll also help with chores. We both work full-time, and having 4 extra people in the house means more cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Vanessa continued reading, her face shifting between disbelief and resignation. You want Tyler and Taylor to go to public school with your kids, she asked. It makes the most sense financially, Mark explained. Emma and Ethan go to the school where I teach. It's a good school, Vanessa. Your kids will be fine there. The final condition made her pause. Family therapy. That's non-negotiable, I said firmly. If we're going to live together, even temporarily, this family needs to address certain issues. Your behavior, your children's relationships, your parents' enabling, it all needs to be discussed with a professional. Vanessa closed the folder, her hands trembling slightly. You've really thought this through, she said. We have, Mark confirmed. Because, despite everything, we want to help. But not at the expense of our children's well-being or our self-respect. She was quiet for a long moment, weighing her limited options. Finally, she nodded. I'll talk to David, but I think we'll accept your terms. 3 days later, they moved in. The cousins' reunion was awkward at first. Emma and Ethan were cautious, while Tyler and Taylor were embarrassed and subdued. But children are adaptable, and by the end of the first week, all 4 were tentatively playing together. The iPads were returned with a strained apology from Vanessa and David. To my surprise, Tyler and Taylor also wrote apology notes to their cousins, expressing genuine regret. We didn't want to take your presents, Tyler confessed to Emma when they thought no adults were listening. Mom just took them, and we didn't know how to say no. The first family therapy session was tense but productive. Vanessa struggled to acknowledge her patterns of favoritism and materialism, while David had to confront his role in enabling her behavior through reckless financial choices. I thought if I could just give her everything, make enough money, she'd be happy, he admitted. But it was never enough. Week by week, things began to shift. The practical realities of living in our modest home taught Vanessa and David lessons that no lecture could convey. Carpooling, meal planning, and careful shopping became their new normal. The children adapted quickly, with Tyler and Taylor discovering that public school offered opportunities they'd never experienced at their exclusive private academy. A month into their stay, I came home early from my nursing shift to find Vanessa at the kitchen table, surrounded by coupons and grocery ads. I figured out how to save $30 on this week's shopping, she said, looking up with a pride I'd never seen in her before. And I'm making lasagna for dinner, enough for everyone, with leftovers for lunch tomorrow. I smiled, sitting down across from her. You're getting good at this. It's actually satisfying, she admitted. In a way I didn't expect. That night, after dinner, as the kids worked on homework together, Vanessa pulled me aside. I've been thinking about that birthday dinner, she said quietly. About how I behaved. I don't think I've properly apologized to you and Mark. You haven't, I confirmed. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry, Olivia. Truly sorry. I was cruel, entitled. And I was jealous. Jealous? I repeated, surprised. Of what? Of your family, your marriage, the way your kids look at you, her voice cracked. David and I had everything, the house, the cars, the vacations. But you and Mark, you have something real. I think I always knew that, and it made me resentful. Her honesty caught me off guard. It was the first time I'd seen her show vulnerability. Thank you for saying that, I said simply. 2 months after they moved in, David found a new job. It didn't pay as much as before, but it was honest work with a stable company. Vanessa started working part-time at a local boutique, discovering a talent for styling and customer service, when she wasn't looking down on the clients. They found a modest apartment within their new budget and prepared to move out. The night before they left, we had a family dinner, not unlike the birthday celebration that had started everything, but with a completely different atmosphere. As we cleared the dishes, Vanessa handed me a small box. What's this? I asked. Open it, she urged. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with 4 small charms, one for each of our children. It's not expensive, she said quickly. But I wanted you to have something to remember that sometimes the greatest gift isn't what we receive, but what we're willing to give when it's hard. I clasped the bracelet around my wrist, reflecting on the journey we'd all taken. Who would have thought, I said with a smile, that losing everything would help you find something better. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video. Stay stunned.